Well, one of the most recent, perhaps more significant foreign policy and diplomatic achievements of the Trump administration was establishing diplomatic relations with Israel, official recognition of the longstanding informal ties between Gulf nations and Israel. We want to get into that, really talk also about just the world of investing, especially when it comes to high net worth individuals. We've got the perfect voice to do that. Denny Chared is founder and CEO of DC Finance. It's an international network of high net worth individuals, family offices, and investors. Denny joining us on the phone from Rye, New York. Denny, it's good to have you here with us. Sounds like it's a little busy on your end.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. I'm here with you. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're doing well. It's nice to have you here. No, no, no. That's the world we live in. And tell us about that world that we are living in, and what it's been like for you and your investors, since March in dealing with COVID.
Right. Well, a lot is going on. I like to say what you just heard. I think COVID made us be way closer to our loved ones, which is why we love them less now. Um, but things have definitely changed. And yeah, there's a lot going on in the family office space that's very interesting. I always thought that families are one of the most important sources of wealth. They are liquid, they can make fast decisions, and they can make investments that many others cannot. So yeah, I'm happy to tell you what we're seeing on our end.
Well, so
Um, yeah.
what about cash? Are they holding it, bulking up their reserves? Are they deploying it? What do they do with it right now?
So I think what we're seeing is with low interest rates, people are not people are not, putting too much in the banks. I think they definitely want to use their capital. I think it was Larry Silverstein that once said, I don't want to miss on a good recession. And two of the families that are speaking at our event, I just spoke with them today. One is Saputo from Canada, the other one's Sheraton. Both of those families were telling me the story how they started during the Great Depression. So their companies actually started when they did something against all odds at crazy times. So I think people that are liquid understand that now they have better opportunities in some cases, in some sectors, in distressed assets, in real estate. So I think what you're seeing is several things. I think you're seeing families that already invested in companies taking the money to support those companies because they definitely understand that these companies, some of them will not survive otherwise, and they're supporting their former investments. We
So
see,
really doubling down, to make sure that they can, that those investments get through this time. I do wonder back in March how nervous were all of these families. And I understand that they make long-term investments, but I'm just curious, were you getting a lot of calls like, what do we do?
I think, yeah, everybody were uncertain. Still, uncertainty is in the market, so people were very worried about what's going to happen next. I think they were waiting to see what's going on. I don't think we saw them doing anything, any particular investments back then. I think what you saw a lot, though, was slowly thinking about wealth preservation
Hmm.
as well. Before we talk about investments, maybe because they are looking at the fact that the older generations that didn't prepare right for the next transfer of wealth are starting to understand, hey, wait a minute, things have changed now. We better do that. So I think you saw a lot of people talk about who's going to be the next heir, how are we going to transfer the wealth, writing wills, and they took it way more seriously. I think that's what you saw in the beginning, wealth preservation, first of all.
Another thing,
And yeah, yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, 2020 also has brought a big push to ESG. Are you seeing that on your end from the family office side?
And just got about 30 seconds, and then we'll come back and talk some more.
Sure. I think we've seen that, and we saw a lot of philanthropy, and we saw a lot of impact investing and healthcare. So absolutely, I think they become even more aware of the needs in the markets now in social demands and others.
So, Denny, I do wonder about the deal that was the diplomatic deal that the Trump administration put together, you know, getting those relationships back with Israel, what was informal now becoming formal between the Gulf nations and Israel. What are the investment implications of that? What are the business implications of that? What are you hearing from your network?
Well, I think it's a huge deal. I think whether you love the administration here and in Israel or not, whatever people left and right, what they managed to accomplish, and it doesn't matter if it was done before and it just happened now, but it's huge in the sense that they're actually changing the Middle East. One country after another are getting in and in the peace agreement, and I think we're seeing a lot of interest in technology coming from the UAE and agriculture and everything around that. And I do believe now we are actually working day and night about putting together an effort there that would bring families from Canada, from the U.S., obviously from Israel, over there and talk about everything to do with families and technology, etc. And I think that would open a door not just for investment in Israel and in technology from Israel, but also for others that might be now joining those investment circles. So I think it's an amazing thing for peace in general, and I think it will open business also between the U.S. and Canada more than it was before. That's what I see on my end.
I'm wondering how far you think this could extend, Denny. When Trump announced the Israel-Sudan deal, he said 5 more Arab countries were in line to join. He specifically mentioned Saudi Arabia. Do you think that's realistic, and at what time frame?
You know what? I have no idea. I think it's really, if they're going to join, that's definitely another level. I have really no idea if that's going to happen or not, but I think already now with the UAE and Bahrain, it's a huge move as it is. And think about it, for decades, nothing close to this has been done. So this is a huge accomplishment. So that's what I'm seeing, on that.
Yeah, I do wonder in terms, yeah, right, in terms of investment flows or what we see, how the impact of any of this will be. And I do wonder, kind of what you're hearing. I think about our audience who are listening and trying to understand. Certainly we understand the diplomatic or political implications, right? But what does it mean for potentially capital flows or business?
Well, I think it will bring, again, more capital flow from the UAE. I believe also here, not that they needed that in order to make business, to do business. And I think we had, I have some VCs here, and they said, well, we're not going over there because, of how they treat women, perhaps, or other things. I think they are getting more advanced, and I think this agreement shows that they are actually in a different place than some might think. They are getting ahead, and actually, I think it will actually open more investments here and vice versa. I really do think I see that right now on our steering committee of the event we're planning. We have several major families from the U.S. Oh, by the way, funny I've mentioned. For instance, a great example is Silverstein. Silverstein is the owner of the World Trade Center. They are great friends of ours, and they are the chairs of this event. And I think that's a huge statement. I cannot think of any other family in the world that has more meaning going over there saying, the biggest terror act in history came from this area. And here we are, standing here, shaking hands, believing in peace and believing in all of that. And by the way, that also brings me to another point where you asked what families are doing, which is very interesting. But we can talk about it later on if you'd like. It's philanthropy, because we would have thought that given what's going on, maybe they would be more distracted and want to take care of their own business first. They're losing money there and everything. But we do see more and more support. And when I had a session the other day with Mount Sinai about what's going on, basically 2 days ago, and they said that they see huge support from families that help them bring, the masks and all they need. So I think this is something interesting. You see families invest and support education. They're supporting schools, and they're supporting hospitals and everything around it, which I think is amazing. And that's obviously how I heard as well.
Right.
That for instance, it was Silverstein again that were involved in supporting the masks to Mount Sinai and all of that. So we see that all around in Canada here. Sorry for jumping to.
No, that's good.
Yeah, and Denny, I want to switch topics here just a bit, because we are 6 days out from the presidential election here in the U.S., and obviously the two candidates have very different approaches when it comes to tax policy. Joe Biden, in particular, talking about raising taxes for anyone making over $400,000. I'm just interested from your vantage point. What are you hearing from clients from these families? Are they concerned about potentially higher taxes?
Absolutely. I think it's obvious that all these bailouts are going to be paid by somebody, and that somebody is the wealthy families. I live in Rye. I see in Connecticut you saw houses crashing down. Everything that was excessive, even before, even before all of this. Obviously now it's a little bit different time because people are running from the city here. But in general, people are scared that they're going to be paying those taxes, and they will be paying those taxes. Otherwise, it's not going to solve itself. And you see other jurisdictions coming over here to like Cayman Islands and many other places are coming over here.
Right.
Well, maybe not the US, but Canada and Europe, saying, guys, if you don't wake up, you're going to be paying loads of money soon. So maybe you want to reconsider that. So I think they are very scared. And I see some families move to Florida,
Right,
many
right.
of them do. And who knows, maybe some of them would actually think to relocate to another jurisdiction, but definitely are worried. They're definitely they know it's coming their way.
Yeah, and Denny, only 40 seconds here, so if you could keep your answer brief. We heard from another guest today that this sell-off we saw today was a lot of profit taking because people are worried about a potential Biden presidency. Do you see them making moves to front run that?
I think families look for the longer term. I don't think they will just be getting out of the markets now. I think that they are very they're taking their time to decide what they want to do, and they're more liquid. I don't think they would make rush decisions when it comes to family offices.
All right, we're going to leave it on that note. Thank you so much. Denny Chared, he is founder and chief executive officer of DC Finance, on the phone from Rye, New York. And great to check in with him because it is interesting. We are reminded that they are longer term investors, right? And aren't so ruffled. But listen, they're thinking about succession planning. And he did say they were thinking about wealth preservation.
Yep. And what's going to happen with those taxes? We'll be very, very interested to see, again, with 6 days out to the election.
And as somebody on Twitter, though, after I think we talked with Hillary Kramer about that, and said, wait a minute, he's not even been elected yet. And maybe he doesn't do it. Like, you just don't know.
Right. Still a lot of question marks.
Still a lot of questions. All right. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week on Bloomberg Radio.